Personally, I think anything can be used as a tool. This is one of those ideas that's based on the idea that anything around you could be used as a weapon. Same kind of principle. Just about anything that you can find around you could be used to your advantage. And in the same way, I think that's true when it comes to intellectual pursuits and the environment we have around us every single day. And not just used as a tool to better yourself, but be used as a tool that can be actively used to give yourself some type of advantage in life. Like, something that I've always considered a detriment to myself is my ADHD. But at the same time, here recently, I've realized that I can actually use it to my advantage. Because, see, there's a qualitative difference between ADHD and ADD that a lot of people don't realize. Where a normal person, let's look at this like a jet cockpit with a targeting system, right? Normal person, they've got a single crosshair and it can lock onto things. Someone with ADD, they have several crosshairs and they have to have each of them kind of pointing at something in order to be able to lock on to any one thing in particular. Whereas ADHD is where your crosshair is just constantly wandering and can't really seem to lock on to anything very well. And what I've started to do is I've started to utilize that aspect of my cognition to my advantage, so that normally what it does is that it naturally inclines me to daydreaming, or the type of thought that you have just prior to actually dreaming, where your thoughts are just kind of fluidly flowing from one into the other. And I use that to my advantage to be able to make it so that I'm flowing constantly from one thing to another when, say, I'm trying to talk constantly, as I'm trying to generate right now. Normally this kind of thing might be difficult for me, but instead what I've done is, instead of allowing that to be a detriment for me, I focus it and I aim it so that instead it's used to my advantage. And in this way, even something that could be a detriment to you can actually be used to your advantage. Another example of a tool I might use on a regular basis is this environment here on YouTube. When I am able to have this conversation with people, and I'm able to express these ideas to people so that they can come back at me with their perspective as well as their dissent, it specifically allows me to further temper my opinions into place. In fact, as a good example, with this most recent issue of pedophilia that I've raised, a lot of people have been bringing up a lot of really good criticisms that have made it so that I've had to take a step back and actually reevaluate why it is that I feel the way that I do, and what specifically my opinions are, which ones are reasonably held and which ones are not, and being able to actually expand on that inside my own mind is facilitated specifically by the people who are most against me, the people who are criticizing me most. Now, most people would normally find someone criticizing them or insulting them or whatever to be extremely negative, but in this case, I'm specifically using it to my advantage, because it's not a bad thing to be criticized. Like, a lot of people have been saying that they think I've been contradicting myself because my opinions have been shifting very, very quickly when I've been talking about this. So it may seem that something I said just a few days ago is contradictory to something that I may hold as an opinion now. So that's something that a lot of people need to keep in mind, you know? Which isn't to say, of course, that I can't be contradicting myself. I very well may be, and I hope that people point out if they think that I am. But I still think that it's important to realize that you shouldn't have an aversion to learning. And I think that even in this kind of situation, you can learn. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that everything in your environment basically can be used as a learning experience. Every experience you have in your life is something that tempers you further into the person that you end up being. It's something that makes you wiser. And as I say so very often, I don't like the idea that growing up is a state that you attain, but rather is an active process of continuing to change. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to have a willingness to learn from everything in your environment, just as much as someone in dire straits when trying to defend themselves might use anything in their environment in order to defend themselves. Long days and pleasant nights.